It's just the way you do it when you move so swiftly. Vibing out to you and making me do you, man. Smoking out the way I feel emotion, so good, it's so bad, it's so bad, it's so new. I'm wishing at the end of June. Clouds in my shroud, in my vision go clearly. Can't see ahead if I'm fine when I leave me. What is the saying when you should let go? What is so impossible? Do me like that with a smile, with a smack, with a you knows you know me, no you know me better. No rainy, no windy, no sun. Just music and just the one. I'm fine like that, fine like that, fine. I'll never be losing, I'm on every time. No, you know, knows me no better like that. Fitting in your style and out too quickly. Man, it's in the way you do when you move so swiftly. Vibing out to you, make me do you, man. Smoking out the way I feel the emotion. It's so good, it's so bad, it's so bad, it's so new. Wishing at the end of June. Clouds in my shroud, in my vision clearly. Can't see ahead if I'm fine when I believe in me. What is it saying when you let go? What is so impossible? Oh, do me like that with a smile, with a smack, with all your nose, you know better like that. When we be on the scene, when you got to me, winging me weathered. No rainy, no windy, no sun. Just music and just the one. I'm fine like that, fine like that, fine. I'll never be losing, I'm on every time.
Can't do it like that again though. I would have to listen to it a lot of times and then memorize it and then try to structure it and realize that I should have just done nothing.
Up from above it, don't leave me behind. It's around all the earth that we know is divine.
Well, hello.
Hey.
Hello, everyone. Before we get started, I just want to start with one thing, and it's an acknowledgement. So I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and pay respects to the traditional owners and custodians of this land. I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on Kaurna land, and I'd like to pay our respects to elders both past, present and emerging. Welcome, Kate.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming to the Northern Sound System and sharing your wisdom. You're welcome. I'm gonna regale a story in a second about how we met. But before we do that, I think it's probably important to sort of get to know who's in the room. We knew that was going to happen. We were like, we're pretty sure this is going to happen. So maybe we'll start with you, York, if you're cool, and just like do a quick just a bit about you, what you do, why you're here.
Sure.
Take it away.
Well, my name is York Heath. Thank you so much for coming and giving us your time, by the way. I'm a singer-songwriter, full-time musician, trying to have a red-hot crack anyway. From the country, from Port Pirie. Now I'm based in Adelaide, chasing the dream. And I basically ended up at NSS through a chance encounter with Diaspora, who's a local rapper, really, really talented guy. Just dropped an album, Australian, go check it out. And we were at a workshop where I was helping facilitate some songwriting I think it's called like New Day, the New Day workshop. I was working there, he was working there too. And we just kicked off, and he was basically saying, you got to come see NSS, you're new to Adelaide, you got to check it out, it's great vibes, great community. And I just started driving up from Christie's, which is about an hour away, and just coming back, and I was just hanging out for months and just really, really love the community, and there's so many talented artists here. It's just a great way to be more involved with the music culture of Adelaide, and so that's a bit about me anyway.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Well, my name is Elijah, but most of you commonly know me as EJ. I am a part-time DJ at the moment. I'm also studying to become a producer in that category. I do drumming, I'm a guitarist, and I'm also a pianist, and I also sing and rap and do other things. I first came to the NSS about 3 years ago now. It was through a good friend of mine, Lachlan McHugh. And I started eventually coming weekly, and before you know it, here I am.
My name is James Banner, and I'm a musician, an instrumentalist, producer, and I own an artist management label. Well, how I got in contact with Northern Sound Systems is through Elsie Umeyo, became friends with her, started drumming for her, and then that's how I met Dice. He brought me down to NSS, and I just got to know everyone, and from there I recently did the producing song workshop thing that was going on this week at Northern Sound System as a producer, and it's good environment, good people.
Amazing.
My name is Margot and Co. I'm a singer-songwriter, producer. Started coming around to Northern Sound System around November, I believe. Yeah, and it's just been a really good vibe here. So I started out just songwriting, then I moved to becoming a vocalist, and now I just produce. So yeah.
I'm totally going to break the music talent side of things. My name's Hannah. I do event management. I book bands. I came to NSS a year and a half ago, maybe. Booked a show here, and then I started working here as a music industry intern. And I recently just got my contract extended, so I'm going to keep working here full time. I love it. It's beautiful, and there's very beautiful people here. And tonight's going to be amazing. Over to Shari.
Yeah, I'm Shari. I'm the cutest white rapper in the world. Self-explanatory, obviously. But alongside of being a rapper, I also just started artist management, and I'm working with an upcoming artist. And I got into NSS because Nick, the project officer, trapped me in a corner and made me sell my soul to this building, and I can't leave, and I've been here since 2016. Please help me.
And now you can get the...
Oh yeah, now they're literally branding me, so that's cool too. But they feed me sometimes, so I'm not really complaining yet.
I'm Sean. I've been here for about as long, 2013 I started coming, so I'm getting old now, I guess. But that's what that means. So I'm getting there. But I'm producer, event manager, and do some artist management and stuff as well. Here to have a chat, have a good time, and vibe. Okay.
Hey guys, my name is Bianca. I'm a full-time record label owner and artist manager. Also specialise in things like sync licensing and international publicity. Started coming to NSS about a year ago, thanks to Ben, and now I will never leave because it's one of the best places on earth.
You'll be like Shari soon.
Yeah, I'll be like Shari
You
soon.
still can.
I love the deadpan. It's like oddly convincing.
Yeah, it really is.
Poker face.
It's pretty cool. Like we've got a pretty broad spectrum of people, like musicians, managers, gigs.
Yeah, it's intimidating now. You guys have got more under your belt than I do.
I'm going to confront these guys every day. It's terrifying. The first week of working here, I got called Dad, and it was like, I'm not that old. Now Shari calls me Dad every time we see each
You're
other.
my dad.
So there we go. Okay, I'm just going to quickly. I want to provide a bit of context about probably tonight, and I think maybe from what I know about you and what we've spoken about, just like your ethos, which you're going to talk heaps more about. But like, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? Can you tell me the quote before I just tell the story about how we met?
Yes.
There's this quote that you told me.
Yeah, I was trying to remember last night where I actually originally heard it, and for some reason it's just really stuck with me throughout. I suppose career or work or generally life itself, I suppose. And it's a bit cheesy, but it's a quote by a Roman philosopher. I think it's Seneca the Younger, and it's luck is where preparation meets opportunity. So I think that's sort of where I had always then had that in my mind that, you know, in order to be lucky or to sort of get ahead or to have any more opportunity, you've got to put yourself in those situations. So, yeah, that was the original quote that I think maybe one of my early mentors, this is only like 5 years ago, but maybe it was him, but
And I think it highlights perfectly what happened. So Dave and I I used to run a record label called Pilot Records, and we ran it for about 7 years, and we were one of the Robert Stigwood.
you guys were.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
No, this is exactly it. So Dave and I, we won the industry side of the Robert Stigwood Fellowship, and they still run it now. Artists get it and industry get it. And because we were the first ones, we actually got an opportunity to go over to London and give Robert and his family something. I can't actually exactly remember what it was, but it was something in the Australian Embassy in London. And so we got flown over there, and then we went down to Brighton for a music festival. But Dave and I were heaps excited. We're like, oh my God, this is like the dream. We're getting paid to go internationally for music. Like, this is the thing. This is what you want to, that was the whole reason for doing it. And we were on the plane, and we're heaps excited, and we're sitting there, and we're like, cool, like, what are we going to drink first, And anyway, Kate sits down next to me, and we're like, hey, how you going? What are you doing here? And it's like it's a jumbo plane. The likelihood of this chance meeting is like almost, impossible. And Kate's like, I'm going to London, then I'm going to, what was it? Was it the Great Escape?
We were there.
Was the Great Escape?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going over to the Great Escape, and you can talk more about all those things, but it was just like, we were like, what do you mean? That's where we're going. And Kate's like, okay, well, great. And then we travelled around London together, and it was just for weeks, and we just became like really close friends. And then I played in a band as well, and then Kate ended up tour managing us. Like we were, I think, the second or third people you tour managed ever. And it was just like this chance meeting that, because Kate put herself in a place, sat next to some random dudes and started talking, that we're kind of here today, and you've done all of this mental other stuff,
Yeah, I suppose it's like just having the awareness of the opportunities. So it's like what you guys are doing now, like to be aware enough to be like, right, I'm going to put myself in this place where all of these things happen. And I wasn't a part of any program. I was I was so desperate. I was like paying for my own flights and everything so I could go, so I could tour manage another Adelaide artist. I just offered to, do it just for my own experience and to go to the Great Escape, which is a really great showcasing event, like the UK version of South by Southwest or Big Sound. And just happened to be fatefully sitting next to Ben, where we consumed a lot of...
Well, we drank a lot of Jack Daniels because everything else had run out.
We don't need to know everything.
I haven't ever, I was just saying, I've never really drunk that much again. Really.
On a plane.
Wow.
Still recovering from that day.
Yeah, it was pretty traumatic. So that's how that all started.
It's sort of a good example of your quote you mentioned before, because luck is sort of made. Like, there's a lot of ways to look at luck when, you're just sort of sitting there, but you wouldn't have had that if you hadn't made the effort to talk to them,
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you make your own luck. It's,
You don't really get a choice when you sit next to Ben.
Oh, yeah.
He's very chatty.
Well, he's got that dad vibe. You can't help it,
Now the show is right.
Yeah, you're an innovator.
It took 6 years.
Okay, so first question.
Yes.
How did you get here? Like, how did you get to this point? And did you study? Like, did you study anything?
No.
Right.
Did you say why?
No, I said right. I said right.
I was like, well, that's
Why?
a long story. I actually dropped out of high school. I didn't do my year 11 or year 12 for a bunch of personal reasons, and I just didn't. It wasn't for me. Schooling at the time. So I decided instead to pack up my stuff and move to London when I was 18. So I worked in hospitality for a little bit, moved over to London, and was working in bars there, which is where I first got a taste of the music industry. The pub. It was like cross between bar and pub.
There's a baby in the bar. There's a pub there.
The pub that I was working at was in this really trendy East London area where there was loads of musicians and people in the music industry. And once again, it was just putting myself in that sort of area, chatting to all the regulars that worked in the industry. Started interning for a couple of people that were just customers there, and then came back to Adelaide, got into the hospitality world pretty deeply, which has really helped in the translation of the music and the live scene as well, like the late nights, the swearing, the casualty of it all, I think, and the personality of it all. So, but that's when I got an internship at 5-4 Entertainment in Adelaide as well. So,
Are they still running that? Is that still... Yeah?
They're still doing their internship?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. It was great. I was there for, I think it was about 6 months. And I think I remember I remember booking some flights. Craig Locke, who is one of the partners of 5-4, gave me like a credit card to book some flights for one of their artists at the time. And I was just blown away that is something I could do for a job. And I remember like driving home like borderline crying because I was so happy that I was like got to book some flights. Now I hate booking flights.
You've got other people to do that.
Live it up.
But yeah, so that's in short how I kind of got here. Was just a lot of interning, a lot of just being there and
I wanted to let's go more into that. Like give us the broad scope, just so these guys get because you're already probably starting to hear just the like showing up to places like interning, like yeah.
I wanted to like just touch on something. I think this is where you're going with this anyway, and something that really resonated with what you're talking about is basically the proactive nature of just like moving to another country. Like throwing yourself massively into the deep end, and like I'm just assuming you had the mentality of basically seize every single opportunity you could possibly get your hands on. Like, is that how it felt like? And
I guess.
And then just to even go deeper on that, like where did that come from within you? And I think it's such an important thing that people maybe take a little bit for granted these days. When if you do throw yourselves out there, like you're going to increase the potential of getting opportunities. So I think it's just so important when you're feeling like if you're resource poor or something like that.
You got to risk it to take the biscuit, right?
100%.
Yeah, I think a lot that played into the reason why I kept doing it was my lack of knowledge on how things worked, or my naivety to everything, I suppose. That's a really big, I think that can be a really big asset, like, because you just throw yourself into something with, you know, less pretense, I think, when you're just figuring things out for the first time. So I think that's where a lot of this, I just saw music and the music industry and working directly with artists as this incredible thing that's so in arm's reach, I suppose. Like being able to just work, because I couldn't get a job anywhere either. I tried to apply for different companies, but I didn't have any like prerequisites or study under my belt. So working directly with artists and building that trust from just one-on-one, sort of enabled me to then have a reason to be contacting those people that had jobs. And I think when I figured out pretty quickly that it's just a matter of doing research and being aware of what's around you and where the opportunities are, that's...
and also, like, if you have to...
It's an exciting thing, I think, to think of how much you can forge your
And
own
just,
way.
like, if you have to, like, travel, like, a bit of a distance maybe for an opportunity, like sometimes it's worth that. Like, we're all here right now because we're trying to seize opportunity, and I just think that's really good.
Yeah, definitely not, like, overworking. I think that's something that I have definitely, did way too much of, was overworking to try and
Let's
get
look
to
at
a certain
look at that, because I think that's a very important thing, like to know when to put yourself out there and when not to, and like sometimes you just want to, you know, keep putting yourself out there. So maybe go from, so you did the 5-4 internship, and then sort of what happened after that? What was the next sort of?
The next, good question.
Too many parties.
Was exactly, way too many Jack Daniels on a plane. No, so I went over to Sydney for an internship that was also a part of the 5-4 thing. So within that, allowed us to reach out to contacts that we'd made throughout the 6 months with their help of the initial networks that they gave you to line up your own internship in a different state, which is what I did. So I went to a different management company over there called Falcona, who were great. And from there was still just managing my own bands on the side that were Adelaide bands as well. And I ended up managing a band from Melbourne. So to have 4 even, you know, in artists in that development stage is really hard, like really hard as a manager you're getting 20% of nothing if the artists aren't earning money. So it's really, you know, it can be a really hard slog, I think, and you have to be aware of, I think the biggest thing that I've recently learned is just your well-being, number one. And unless that's, you know, sound and you're looking after yourself, you can't be your best for your artists or for your clients or for the people or the teams that you're looking after. So, definitely listening to your body and mind and mental state as to when and where you want to exert yourself, or when you want to sort of retreat and just observe and see what's going on.
Just jumping in there, how old were you when you did the internship?
I was 23.
Did you feel as
24?
if, like, as a young woman kind of going into this industry, do you feel like you were kind of underestimated sometimes, or kind of, all the challenges
Yes
with
and
that?
no.
Yeah.
I was really oblivious to anything that may have been a disadvantage. I think because of that kind of blind ambition that you mentioned earlier, it was just like, I don't know, I just saw things and I tried to do it and failed a lot of the time as well. But yeah, I've definitely had my fair share of like direct encounters where you're like, but I never really let that, I mean, for every person that isn't encouraging of, you know, any sex or race, there's a lot of other people that are. So I guess I've just focused on those people and made sure I gravitate towards them and just know that there's going to be struggles kind of wherever.
Yeah.
Queen. Put it out there.
Okay, so I just want to get this this like magical career path, right? Because it's not like a straight line. It wasn't like oh, I did an internship and then I did another internship and now I'm, you know, have my artist play at Coachella. It's zigzaggy, right? And I think I know it, and it would be super valuable, I think, for these guys to get it. So I'm just going to keep pressing in and get those nuggets out. And so it's like the internship happened, and the 4 artists that you were managing, you self-professed, like, I didn't know what I was doing, I was just doing it, right?
Yeah, and I think that's something just generally we like just dismantling the idea of certainty a little bit. Even recently, a manager said, like a very experienced manager, he said to me, you know, don't ever say that you don't know what you're doing. Like, you're the manager, you've always got to be the one that's certain. And I was like, I don't know if I agree with that. Like, I think there's a lot to say for saying, hey, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to be the first person to find out for you, and then try not to make that mistake again. So I think there's a lot more strength in that sort of vulnerability of admitting uncertainty.
Honestly.
In my personal experience, so when you go and ask for help with things, that's when you make the biggest steps in your career, or like, you know, getting new opportunities. It's when you actually go and ask for help.
For sure.
Definitely, for sure.
And I think that's why, like, because of how little I knew, sort of the more I started to learn and really get into the industry, the more I was even a little bit ashamed to be asking questions. You know, when you're managing this incredible, you know, these incredible artists, it's you feel like you should know this certain level of things because your artist is at this certain level, but I think that pressure that you're putting on yourself is, once again, just, it's not productive.
How important is it, the relationship that you have between you and your artist, like when you were first starting out to now? And what does it look like? Is it a friendship or?
It's a really funny, the dynamics between, I think, artists and managers, you know, a lot of people have said, like, just keep you too emotional, keep it strictly business. But when you're working with people that are, you know, typically so creative and they feel everything and they go on their emotions and they go on their gut instinct as artists and creatives and the right brain, like, you can't just treat it like a business all the time, for sure, like when it's appropriate and when necessary, but there has to be that deeper sort of intrinsic trust, I think. And I'm sure that develops throughout everyone's career. Like, you might have your first, like, real passion project where you just throw yourself into it, maybe a little bit more than you would once you've experienced it a few times. But yeah, the relationship is extremely important. I think, like, being quite candid, and it develops like any relationship. It takes a lot of hard work to keep. I'm sure they wanted to kill me multiple times.
And you them, no doubt.
Yeah.
Real love.
Get on the bus. Like, it's, yeah, no.
Yeah, I want to get to the bus. Because the bus is the best. This is the bus story. You came back from, I don't know, touring the world somewhere a couple of years ago, and just we sat down and had lunch and beer.
Yep.
And not Jack Daniels. And just like listening, I literally listened to Kate for maybe an hour and a half. And it was the best. It was like, oh my God. So how did you get from managing 4 artists and how did you go, I don't want to manage those artists, or how did you stop managing those artists and get to somewhere else, and what happened next?
That's always really tough. You know, I was given an opportunity. This was 2016, actually. I was, weirdly enough, I went to New York on a gut feeling. I just felt like I'd sort of done UK a little bit. I was living there like 10 years ago in 2010. Australia, I just wasn't having any luck with in regards to my ability to make connections really easily. I think just being able to pop over to a different state isn't as easy as it is in the US or the UK. So I went over to New York and I was staying in an Airbnb, and I ended up being quite close friends with my Airbnb host, and I went back to New York to live with them for a while, and they put me in touch with an artist from Chicago, and I was promised this job with them, and I was so excited, and it was like this really life-changing sort of pivotal moment, but they never answered my call.
So you went to Chicago?
I went to Chicago. I literally waited. I won't like name the artist, but I literally waited out the front of the office. They said, be here at 2 p.m. And I was there, I was staying with, I didn't know this person, I was staying in like someone's mum's basement. And they said, be here Monday 2 p.m. I was like, cool, Monday 2 p.m. I was there at like probably Sunday 5 p.m. I was so excited. And yeah, they just literally never answered the door or answered their phone ever again. So
This is a beautiful. This is one of those times where you're like, I put myself out there, and it didn't work.
Oh yeah, it definitely doesn't work all the time.
Yeah, I think that, and that you spoke about failing before. Like you said, I've failed heaps. I think that's so important. It's not just like, oh, if I go there, it's always going to work out. But failing, I think that one was
just making mistakes like on the daily. I think with anything in music, whether you're an artist or whether you're in the industry side, like it's all so personal and like uncharted territory a lot of the time that you're bound to make multiple mistakes. Like probably with songwriting, I imagine as well. Like you're not gonna have the perfect song all the time, and even as a manager, I'm not gonna make the perfect decision all the time. Try my best, but
What kind of tips or advice would you give from your experience to sort of get over that feeling when you've gone out and put yourself out there and no one's giving it back and you feel done, you don't want to do it? What do you do to get over that sort of feeling?
Yeah, that's tricky. It can really get you down, and I think you need to allow yourself the time and space to feel
we're human.
Shitty. And know that that's okay. And I think just knowing at the end of the day, like you're the only one that's going to have your own back, I guess, essentially, and just like continuously positive self-talk
back yourself,
and really that's the only thing.
I think it's important to like remember as well that you can't have success without failure first. Like you have to fail to succeed. That's part of the journey.
And does it also play a big part, like passion? Like if you're truly passionate about what you're chasing, you're going to be able to find that extra 10% when you're in the dumps to just go and do it again because you actually love it. As opposed to when you may be doing a job that you don't like and you're feeling in the dumps and you're like, just don't care.
You feel like that maybe you're doing the wrong thing.
What do you love so much about artist management? Like, what is that passion?
Building a team is my favourite thing. Like when you've got, and my first experience was really building out our live team for FKJ, specifically, was building out that core team that just to see that all come together and then to create that shared vision, I guess. So that's something that's really exciting. And when the team's right as well, it's just like the best feeling. And when everyone's, feeling positive about it. But also, I guess just being able to be a part in executing their creative sort of vision that I'm not going to manage them if I don't really believe in their music or like what they're doing. But being able to play a part in sharing that with the rest of the world that hopefully makes other people feel a certain way or is healing or therapeutic, being able to navigate that and share that with them is pretty incredible. But there's like the low lows and the high highs. Like it's a lot of give and take. But.
So Chicago. Hang on. Chicago to the team, because there was a point in the middle when you were the whole team.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So Chicago. How do you get the Chicago to FKJ?
So this job that I didn't get. I was like, I will do anything to make this easy for you. I will get my own working visa for the US, which isn't the easiest or cheapest thing to do.
So you're in New York with no working visa,
I was there for 3 months, but I wasn't working. I was just there with my fans from Australia still, trying to work on a different time zone, trying and like be there for them and get those contacts for them, and just put myself in and around that. Which wasn't the easiest either. Like you get to New York City and it's pretty daunting. It can be really overwhelming. So, so I got my working visa, came back to Australia and was really just like I needed to earn some money again because I just burnt it all in the US. I didn't get a job when I was there for the 3 months and came back and was going to work like the festival season in Australia maybe to try and earn some cash and work back at the bar. I was working at a bar in the city. And that is when I got a call from my friend. Do you guys know Remy? the rapper, Remy. He's incredible, and his drummer, Sensible J, and producer as well. So I got a call from them, and they were like, "Can you come with us to Strawberry Fields? It's a music festival in the middle of nowhere in New South Wales." And they're like, "We need someone extra to help drive." So went with them for that, and just very coincidentally, and I was always a really huge fan of FKJ, like probably the biggest. I actually flew to New York actually to see his show at Webster Hall in earlier 2016. I booked my flight to catch him live, and lost my mind. It was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And we stopped in the middle of nowhere on the way to Strawberry Fields, at this petrol station, and a guy that I knew that I used to work with on bookings for one of the bands in Adelaide walked out of this petrol station like in the middle of nowhere. I was like, "What are you doing here?" He was like, "Oh, I'm tour managing FKJ." I was like, "Oh." So I ran over and I was like, "Hey."
Hey.
Like the biggest door. And they were just like, these two French guys like, "Hi." So I ran off and I was like, "Oh, they were rude."
Classic.
And just coincidentally, they were playing one set time earlier than Remy, who I was there with. And I got chatting to his manager at the time, and then Vincent himself, who's FKJ, and we just, hit it off. So I invited them. They were coming to Adelaide that following Friday, playing at Rocket Bar. So I was working at a restaurant in the city at the time, and I had to beg for the Friday night off. Getting a Friday night off in hospo is not easy. Super last minute. So thankfully I got the night off and ended up taking them to the restaurant I worked at. And something just kind of clicked with myself and the artist and the manager as well at the time. And then they invited me to go to San Francisco over New Year's for a show, which I did because that's a pretty big opportunity to be able to hang out with one of your favourite artists, not knowing what was going to happen. So within 3 weeks, I packed my bags and decided I was going to move to New York with about 500 Australian dollars in my account, maximum. First month's rent paid and no job. And then went and hung out in San Francisco, moved to New York. It was my 25th birthday, and I remember sitting in this room, no windows, in this apartment that I'd
Please
found
don't
online.
say alone.
I was so alone. I was so alone. And I was like, well, what am I doing? I just moved to New York City. Anyway, so I did that. And then kept harassing FKJ's manager at the time to let me help them with something because I didn't have anything else to do. And he eventually let me start working on the tour and helping out with that. And then he offered me the tour manager position for FKJ's upcoming US tour, which we started, and it was interesting. There was some things that I jumped in on that weren't necessarily my job title at the time. And once again, the naivety, I didn't know what a tour manager was really meant to do. I thought I didn't understand that I probably shouldn't be production managing and trying to manage and also tour managing and production managing the two support acts. And
what does that look like? What do those words mean? Like, what's production managing and like, what does that mean as a job?
So for the production is specifically, the tech sort of side of it, I suppose, or the production. So like all of the instruments and the logistics of all of that. And then that's a layman's terms, I suppose. And then tour management more so, the real logistics of the tour. So the hotels and the accommodation, that's hotels, but all of those things.
So you're literally doing all the jobs. Like at this point, you're a roadie.
Yeah.
Are you setting up the gear?
Yeah.
So you're setting up the band's gear on stage.
There was heaps of Googling done. I had no idea what anything was. They were just coloured cables. And FKJ, I went over to Paris at one point to try and do a quick crash course in his studio of what things were. I don't know why they kept trusting me, to be honest, or why he stood us, but
because you keep showing up.
It's pretty funny. I just had to take photos of everything and keep replicating it every show. So that was a while. That was a 3-month tour.
Yeah. How long ago was that?
That was in 2017.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then we did Asia, and then we did America again.
And how many shows have you done? How many actual?
Oh my god. In that year, good question. like last year alone, he did 72 shows. Yeah.
You weren't setting up all the.
No. Yeah, I finally hired some people to do that for me. Thank God.
But the
For
other
him, for his
ones,
sake, not anyone else's. He was just like.
the other ones you were
patient.
though, right? Like the other ones you're.
Yeah.
The first tour.
Yeah. The first 2017, and then some shows in 2018. But yeah, 2017 was because then I took over management in the like June or July 2017, but still had to finish off that world tour at the same time as trying to handle a transition of management. Yeah. But I actually started managing June, who has a name, like a symbol for a name that you can't pronounce. Is very much about not wanting to make the project about self and more of something like a creative portal, I guess, that you see and feel and think of instead of thinking about like one particular person and a name around that. So she also goes by the Sundrop Garden, which is like more of the larger scale of what she does that isn't just music. So she does a lot of like gardening, and she sells different seeds, and she's gonna kill me for how I'm describing this. But yeah, I started managing her, and she's actually FKJ's wife as well now. They got married not long ago. So I started managing her first, then that relationship built my relationship with FKJ as well. So.
Matchmaker.
No. No. Sometimes. A counsellor.
That's a manager right there.
Yeah.
That's a manager.
Absolutely.
And so then, first of all, is there any questions? Like, are we? There's.
Does being a manager go outside of like the music aspect
Yep.
of like managing an artist?
Yeah, I think that was really dependent on what type of personality you're dealing with or that you're managing. It can be such a broad spectrum. I think at the end of the day, you're managing a human, and whether they are cool with that sticking to business is business, this is my music, and that's all you're sort of involved with, or the different types of personalities that need a bit more support in other areas, because usually as well you're dealing with true artists and creatives. It's not, they don't compartmentalize music into one specific area of their life. Like it is everything that they do. So being able to know a person well enough to know sort of what inspires them or what doesn't, or just what makes them tick, I suppose.
Personally, just like with like one of the artists I manage, like even sometimes when they're having a bad day, they message me and be like, hey, have you got time to call? So I can tell you like how I'm feeling, and I take time to listen to them, talk about them, because like I don't just care about the music, but I care about them as a human.
Absolutely.
Like I think that's super important.
You definitely have to be invested in their well-being, I think, as well. You can't be a one-sided thing.
100%.
And that's where the trust is really built as well. You've really got to know as an artist that your manager's got your back, and they're being the face for you in the industry, essentially. So. Yeah.
Would some managers not be like that? Would some managers not be as involved? Would they be more?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. I guess. I don't know. Everyone's got their own style. Like I'm not really, sure of even my particular style. It really depends on the specific person I've got in front of me, I think. Yeah.
I suppose it's also in your best interest, like on a business level, to like do your best to make sure they're in a healthy emotional state, because then like they're probably going to get the best musically out of themselves.
For sure.
Which is obviously what you guys want.
Motivate and keep them in line in some aspect. But I think that's as well where, artists might be more inclined to go for much bigger management companies as well, where there's a different person for each asset of your career. So the huge management companies that have like, a person on the touring side, a person on the sort of day-to-day stuff, a person on the accounts, a person on, the marketing, the socials. Whereas when you're a solo manager, you're doing all of that, or managing all of those teams. Or,
How much of the job would you say is actually sort of focused around your artist's health and well-being and mental health and stuff like that? Because it's a massive part on how people perform and
especially
get by
like
and stuff.
Being like a highly creative person, it's like when you have highs, the highs are really high.
Yeah.
And then if
Tends
it's
to be
lows,
more
the lows are
emotional.
like really, really low.
And I think
So
that
there's
goes
never,
for
like-
even the industry side as well. Just speaking from my own experience, like the highs are high and the lows have been really low.
Yeah.
Like I definitely even like personally hit a stage
no
where
happy
I
medium.
needed
So
to
it's like
sort
dealing
myself
with
out.
your, like,
Otherwise, yeah.
personal self and like
Yeah. Because you don't want to go to, like, you know, not necessarily going to turn to my artist who employs me to do and holds me at a standard to do my job, which I want to show up for every day. I don't really want to be calling them being like, I feel like shit. Like, I can't get out of bed today. Like, that's not going to instill faith in them. So I think that's where I said, like, looking at your own well-being is really important because, you know, now you can be that person to the artist if and when they need it to be that sort of strength or ear or shoulder or whatever it is.
Is this
My
the time
artists
to
are
mention
pretty-
Abbey Road?
Yeah.
Maybe.
They're great.
How?
I love them.
Yeah. I don't. To be honest, I don't know heaps about it. Other than I know you did some work with them. Abbey Road Studios is probably the most well-known thing in
Yeah.
music. Maybe it's
Up there.
definitely up there.
Well, I didn't work with them. I did like one interview with them. So just, but
Still
but-
a pretty big flex.
yeah, we just went in. They invited FKJ in when we were in London. We'd just finished a month-long tour rehearsals, which was just the most like crazy time. So we finished off the tour, went into Abbey Road Studios for a tour through the studios and to meet the guy that's the head of brand and marketing there. And I just got along with him really well. I think I was really just quite transparent about somehow mental health came up, so very on topic of what we're talking about. Mental health came up and it must have also struck a chord with him, something that he's quite passionate about, particularly in the music world. So then from there, that relationship was we've just kept in touch and yeah, hopefully want to work with them a little bit more in any capacity or help them with some creative ideas for mental health and the musical community that they have there, which is incredible. Like, yeah, they've got a really great team of people. It's Abbey Road Bread, so it's like the innovation team. So, yeah, very cool.
That's cool.
And speaking of mental health, I know that the tour would have been emotionally so draining for you. Did you kind of have a recovery period after that when it was all over, or did you just have to keep on moving?
Which is also, yeah, we didn't stop for probably, you know, in hindsight, it would have been a lot healthier for me to be much more conscious as a manager of, you know, when we needed to have a break. But, you know, now with COVID and everything, I'm sort of like, thank God we did everything while we could. But yeah, there wasn't necessarily a break, and I think that's sort of where I figured out pretty quickly that there's not going to be this magical time where I'm able to take 2 weeks, a month, or however long I need off. You've got to be pretty available all the time, or I choose to be anyway. So that was then, yeah, my decision to sort of do that work simultaneously and get
On the
myself
topic of
strong and
COVID,
healthy.
what sort
On
of
that
direction are
grind.
you guys going in at the moment with things? Are you got like planning for the future or what's happening now?
I think it's so hard to do, to try and plan ahead at the moment. So we're just definitely sitting back and taking it as it comes, and I think giving the artists a bit of a break as well. You know, Vincent and June have both just been pretty non-stop, travelling all over the world for as long as I've been with them for. So it's nice that they can actually spend time in their home and together
And just tell us a bit about their home, because this is magical.
Yeah, they live in Asia, place undisclosed, but they live in just like this fairy tale jungle, basically, like paradise. So they're setting up studios out there and working on their music and themselves, and yeah, very isolated. Isolation isn't really a thing for them. They're already isolated by choice. So.
I'm going to have a quick little break. What we're going to have just before the break, though, this is kind of perfect to talk about their life and where they live, because we're going to show a clip that I think is probably the best thing that exists on the internet. There's people tuned in on Facebook as well. So just a message to them. If you guys have got questions, I don't know what camera I'm looking at. If you guys have got questions, please feel free to ask them. Just ask them in the comments, and I'll ask Kate for you. So anyway, this clip that we're going to look at is like probably the best thing that I've ever seen. When I saw it, I was just like, "What is this?" And I asked Kate specifically if we could show it in the interlude. And Kate was like, "Yeah, it's actually got a heaps funny story about how it came into being. So do you mind if I tell that?" And I was like, "Yes." No, I don't mind at all. So can you tell us the story how this happened, and then we'll go to the clip and have about a 4-minute break or whatever, and then we'll come back for some questions and things.
Sure. It was pretty funny, just because of like how grand and insane and ambitious the video is and looks. There's this really incredible team called Circle, this French company that puts on different, usually DJ sets, but in really extreme locations in nature, so under the statue in Rio and top of the Eiffel Tower, and live stream it all. So they'd been fans of FKJ for a while, and they hit us up trying to line something up for him to do, but we didn't want to do a DJ set because he's not a DJ. He's very much a live show with all of his instruments. And they proposed a place in France, like, I guess sort of palace grounds with like manicured hedges and beautiful gardens, but it's quite structured. So I was like, that's not reflective of FKJ's music. So they were like, okay, well, like you come up with somewhere then. I was like, okay. I had just moved to Los Angeles, where cannabis is legal. So I thought it was a really good idea to go down to the dispensary and smoke a little joint before I looked for somewhere that inspired me in nature where we could present to do this live stream. So did that, started Googling, and then found this place that literally like reflected his music, because it's on that salt flat desert, so when there's a bit of water it mirrors, so it looks like you're in the clouds. So my little stone brain at the time was just like, whoa, that's really reflecting. So I messaged Vincent. I was like, hey, check this out. He was like, you're sick. Reflections. So then, like, he was probably just So we sent it over to the guys, and the next morning they were like, yeah, cool, let's do it. I was like, shit. Now we actually have to try and pull this off. But we didn't do anything for it. Like the guys at Circle really moved mountains.
And it was in Bolivia, and you had to. What happened? Like, how did you? Like, you just finished the tour or something?
Bolivia, yeah, we just finished the tour. Did the tour at Abbey Road Studios. I wore my pajamas to Abbey Road Studios because we had like a 40-hour flight to Bolivia the next day, or that day. Sorry.
That's boss.
So we did the Red Bull Abbey Road Studio toured. Went straight on a plane to Bolivia and was just like dumped 12,000 feet above sea level in the Bolivia salt flat desert, and we had 5 hours to record the whole thing. Like, and if it rained, we would have been there for no reason. And, it was a big adventure for maybe no return, but it worked out great.
Other than the best thing on the internet.
Other than the fact that he was like floating on water with electric guitars, and just the risks with it as well. It's like,
and being the only
it looks so yeah. Also, yeah, thanks. And there's nowhere to go to the bathroom on the biggest salt flat desert in the world, believe it or not. And being the only female there, where you can't just easily stand up, we were there for hours. So our lovely playback tech helped me out there. He stood in front of me. It was just a bizarre,
green screen.
It was just a real whirlwind. Like, I spoke to Vincent about it the other day, and he was just like, that will never feel real. But yeah, it looks great. Thank God.
We're going to play a 4-minute little snippet of it, but I implore anyone that wants to go look at it. It goes for about an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, it's a while.
Yeah, and it's
just great to have one in the background.
Totally, it's magical. So anyway, we're going to hit a 4-minute clip. You good with that, Billy?
Oh yeah.
Sweet. We'll just we'll just do that, and we'll see you back in 4 minutes. And welcome back. What we're going to do now is hand over the questions to you folk. And I've also got a question online as well that I'm going to ask. So, but maybe I'll start with this one.
Yeah.
So, what do you look for in an artist? This is from X Promotions, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
What do you look for in an artist to manage? And what sort of things do you like to see before you approach them? Great question.
Thank you, X Promotions.
I reckon.
First and foremost, the music. Like that, there's no questions about that.
Mm.
If the music is special, then that's instantly going to get my attention. And then for me, it would probably be the instant or the connection that I have with them after having a chat, just that general read on a personality, I suppose, that I initially get. But overall, more so it would be, some sort of existing, fan base as well. I don't think it would have to be really special music for me to work with an artist really from the ground up completely again. But even in that case, just the artist being really proactive and having a really clear vision of what they want to do already.
Can I possibly ask a question?
100%.
Just to even go deeper on that, how would you assess an artist's fan base? Like, what are the metrics that you would usually look at first? Like, what would be the first thing you look for?
It would probably be like a consistent, no matter how small, how large, just a consistent sort of core fan base, whether that's 10 people from their local area, but that constant engagement is really important. And then obviously if they've already got things on the digital streaming platforms, just sort of what their numbers are doing there, and if they're increasing once again out of any period of time, but just that you can see some sort of movement and drive from the artist sort of pushing it as well. There's got to be that momentum already going for the manager to even warrant coming in and taking 20% or taking whatever cut or doing that work, unless the artist's already on that trajectory themselves, I think.
Mm-hmm. You've said 20% a couple of times. Is that's pretty standard management?
Yeah,
percent?
it really varies.
Yeah.
It varies. So the States, it can be 15%, and they leave 5% for business management, whether that's net or gross or, it's really, but generally, that would be, one of the industry standards. Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
Same as it's an unspoken agreement. The booking agents get 10%. It's just one of those standards.
I've heard a thing with, this isn't my question time, but it may be valuable knowledge. I've heard a thing is that booking agents often don't have a contract with the artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you just speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, not too much because I haven't ever worked in bookings, but I guess once again that's sort of a relationship thing, and I guess typically the live world moves quite fast, so pretty quickly whether or not your agent's doing, booking you the right sort of shows or strategizing with you or just getting you any kind of gigs and really doing the effort, putting in the effort and doing the work. It's such a instant effort reward sort of situation because you're there in the live moment. So I think you'd find out pretty quickly if your booking agent wasn't doing the right thing. So
yeah, when I found that out, I was fascinated. I was like, wow, no contract. It's either they're doing a good job and it's mutually beneficial, or it's not. And I was like, wow, that's a beautiful gem to exist in the music industry. Anyway,
maybe some do. I hope so.
At the start, of your artist management, I suppose, did you also act as a booking agent? Is that something? Did you book shows for any of your artists? Is that something you did?
I tried.
You tried?
I really wasn't that. I love the people that work in bookings. They're some of my favourite people just to work with as a team.
Yeah.
But I booked some for bands really early on, like the Great Escape shows with there was an Adelaide artist that I wasn't managing, but I was just trying to book some gigs for them. It's a tough bookings. Yeah, bookings would be tough.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously as you said, the way you getting artists by obviously their like talent and stuff like that. But what if they were very talented but they had really like bad personalities? Would you still?
No. They'd have to be really worth putting yourself through essentially a toxic relationship.
Like Freddie Mercury or something.
Yeah, I think, you know, everything comes at a price in some ways when it comes to how much are you willing to tolerate. I guess if the dynamic isn't respectful, or, you know, of course managers are always going to cop a lot of flack, like from artists sometimes. It's just that's the person that they trust the most, it's the person that's got their back, so it's usually sometimes the person that they feel most comfortable to express themselves in front of, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But if they're just inherently a not very nice person, then I probably wouldn't, but who knows, I might eat my words one day and be managing an artist that I hate. Got a #1 song, who knows?
Any other questions?
What's been your like biggest moment? It might be like on the Salt Lake, because that would be amazing. But like it's just been like, this is why I do it. Like this is why I moved to Chicago. This is why.
God.
Everything.
Probably. It would be a live show for sure. Like that's my sort of favourite aspect of it, is because you're really seeing that crowd, you're hearing them sing along, you're like, but probably we were in India actually in the end of 2018. It was the end of 2000, and we played, like, there was 14,000 people at the main stage closing out a festival in India. That was pretty incredible to see that many people. I hadn't seen that before. But then also we played in London end of October last year, I think, when FKJ, and that was a pretty big highlight. Was we just got to the end of this really tough kind of 3 years, and tensions are a little bit high, but we got to that end, and we had this full team now as well, which, you know, an incredible crew. And I remember just getting Vincent on stage, and my tour manager was standing there, and I just collapsed into her and started sobbing, like really unattractive sort of sobs.
Those ones.
Like we can't quite breathe. That was probably one of my best ones, is to just finally like get to that end point.
So exciting.
Yeah.
Top 5 festivals that you've seen your artist play at?
Good one. Glastonbury and Coachella are the, you know, big ones. I didn't actually go to a lot of. He played some really incredible ones in Europe last year, but I wasn't there. I let them go do their thing for that season.
Well, how was that? Was it refreshing?
I was nearby, so I was still in Europe and working and just getting the calls if something went wrong. But it was nice. It was a nice shift. Top 5.
Oh,
The one in India, so that was a festival called NH7. There was what was it called? I think it was Wonderland. There's one in Manila that both June and Vincent played at, which was also a really emotional time for them, and seeing them up on that stage was incredible as well. Yeah. Also one of the Australian ones, like seeing him play here, which we haven't done for a while, but seeing him play in Australia, it was like, whoa, really bizarre for me.
I just had a question as well. Like, as an artist who's trying to, I guess, break into the music industry and create like something sustainable, like, what would be your best advice as far as approaching management and things like that? Because I feel like I'm getting to a point where I'm really starting to think about those things. And like my history of like when I moved to Adelaide 2 years ago, I basically just like if you guys know Maine, like I know she was actually I went to school with her and everything like that. We're in the same grade. She was actually my first girlfriend, which is a really funny story now thinking about that. But basically I knew of her, so I basically just like used Google and found out who her manager was and just like sent her a message, and I was like, just like to the top of the sort of heap, I was like, hey, my name's this, like I did this type of thing, here's a SoundCloud link of something I did. It's just a complete wrong way of approaching it, and I also wasn't ready either. But yeah, what's your best advice for finding like the right manager for you as well? Because I've had people give me advice, like other musicians who have been in the industry, basically saying that like not to worry about it too much, like the right people will eventually find you, but I don't know if that's...
And I think that's true. Like, I think the best thing you can do is continuously just work on you and your own project, and then those people, you know, hopefully will be gravitating towards you, given putting yourself in opportunities' way. But yeah, I guess I haven't found that like the cold calling essentially like works all the time. Like it could. I don't know. I haven't ever picked up an artist that way. But I think it would also be like looking for, you know, the showcasing events where there are industry people that do go and specifically there to look for new talent or new artists that they want to work with. So those sort of things, if and when, fingers crossed, that comes up again for like live shows, you know, those types of things. And doing what you're doing now, like networking with, you know, the likes of Ben, who knows a bunch of people here in music, and everyone that's here as well.
And then do you also have like a standout story or like a funny story of how an artist has approached you in the past? Like anything that stands out?
Not really. Honestly, I've had like my head so far in the sand with just the artists that I do have at the moment, and just I don't particularly like, if the right thing comes along, then I'll definitely look into it. But at the moment, I just sort of want to respect the relationships that I have with my current artists and do my best with their next albums or anything that's coming up. But I don't have any. No, actually.
No one
Sorry.
like holding a sign when you get off the plane?
No. I don't know if they even. No. I don't have like a company name or anything, so I just kind of FKJ and the Sundrop Gardens, like weird manager that's always there with them everywhere.
Holding their hand and making sure they're okay when they have arguments. I've got an interesting thing to add about, you know how you're saying like, should I just hit up people randomly?
Like I used to be a salesperson, and I just thought that was how you live.
Totally.
It was like the first job I got was knocking doors, like basically. So I just like followed that thing. I was like, this is how you do it. Yeah. But now I'm like moving more into just being an artist and just following that life, and that doesn't like resonate.
I think so from running the label, right, I would have so many people hit us. We'd have daily emails like, here's my latest dubstep track, and it's like, we didn't do dubstep. It's like, why are you hitting me up with your dubstep track? Like, none of our artists make dubstep, right? But if you find someone that manages an artist that you like, that you think is not out of reach, it's not like, you know, they're not... I don't know why Justin Bieber is the first person that came to my mind.
He's massive, dude.
But you know what I mean? Like he's not Beyonce. And so it's like, you find someone that's relevant to you, but that resonates with you, that resonates with your vibe, and you go, like, you hit them up with probably like something like, I love the artist you manage. It would be an honour for me if you would listen to my music. Take 4 minutes to listen to one song. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. When I got emails going like, please, you know, I love your label, these artists are sick, you know, I would always listen to the music. But the ones that are just not relevant to me, and I feel like it's just been like...
They're just like, give me.
Do your research, I guess.
It depends on how you approach someone as well. Like, I get emails every day, and some of them are like, put a deal on the table. And like, I'll just like delete it. I'm not even going to like open it. But if it's someone that's been genuine, like, I'll take time to listen to them, and something could happen, you know.
Like, I'm a person, you're a person. Let's talk like people. You know, it doesn't have to be about economics. And if you're just going like, you know, so I just wanted to not say like, I don't think it's a bad idea to do that, but also do it with some intent. Like,
read the room.
Like, make sure
read the room.
Yeah.
Like, also like, you might fit in the context of like what they're trying to build and stuff like that. Yeah.
It happened with an artist that it was like 11 o'clock at night. My wife's asleep and in the bed next to me, and I found this artist and I listened to him and I woke her up. I'm like, babe, check this out. And she's like waking up like, goes back to sleep. But I'm like tripping in bed, and I fell in love with this artist. His name is Menagerie, and he's like the most beautiful dude. And we ended up releasing his music. So it does happen, but yeah, you just got to find the right people, I guess. Anyway.
No, you're right. I listened to his answer.
Well, thank you anyway.
Any more questions? Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I have two questions. My first one is, how did internships affect your career from the start? Like, did you find them detrimental in a way of building yourself up as a solo because you were so connected to other industry companies? Or did you find it more of a beneficial output to be surrounded by so many independent industries?
Definitely benefit. Like, the more you can learn from other people, the better, whether they're good or bad experiences. Everything is an experience that then puts you on whatever certain path that you're on yourself. So definitely a good experience for sure.
Yeah, and as someone who's only now recently getting into the whole artist management thing, what are like 5 tips you can give someone who's looking to manage someone who pretty much doesn't exist in the music industry just yet?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really good stage to really build the relationship with the artist. It's like, so if you are the type of manager that does want to get a little bit creative with the artist as well, and the artist is open to that, letting you in, it can be a really fun stage because you can completely create this world that doesn't exist yet. You can create what you want in that, and to then, I don't know, dream up what you do want without having any pressure of any sort of public eye or making the wrong mistake by doing, it's this really creative sort of beautiful time, I think. So in regards to like 5 tips, I don't know if I could put them into numbers, but I would say probably like as manager, like have an overall vision. Like sometimes the artists can get a little bit, sidetracked with what we're actually doing, which is releasing music. So keeping that overall vision for them, always checking in, inspiring them, networking, social capital essentially, like really just try and genuine connections too, like people that can ask me back to do a little interview, like really take that time out to just check in with other people that you have met in the industry, whether it's going to benefit you directly or not. Just say hey, be a nice person. Research like other artists that are similar to your artists was what I used to do anyway. With just like hours on end just looking at the Facebook about section of like who their booking agent was, what certain agencies had a certain type of music, or who their managers were, seeing what circles I guess people sort of ran in. So just like building your awareness generally, and building your contacts, and maintaining that vision with them, and checking in on the creative stuff if and when you need to.
Awesome. Any more?
Maybe just one more.
Yeah.
My girlfriend will probably kill me if I don't ask this one. Just a question about aesthetic. From a bit of a fashion disaster.
I don't know how well I'm going to be like.
My aesthetic is like lack of aesthetic at the moment. But like I don't necessarily believe aesthetic's like the most important thing anyway. But how like do you see that plays out in the industry these days? And what are your opinions on like developing a style and maybe coming into your own like style and things like that? Like how do you see that playing out, and how important do you think it is?
Well, I think you just said it, like coming into your own style. Like it's personally as well, like I'm not, thankfully I've got 2 stylish artists that don't need my help with that. So I think just really figuring out what that is and what that means to you and why, style wise, I guess. And what makes you feel confident, I suppose, like being an artist, like having to do interviews or having to go up on stage, or having to be your own sort of brand. Can be extremely intimidating maybe to some people. So I think wearing something that just makes you feel good, I guess, would be...
Oh, man, and you are your brand. You are like, there's no other you. And when I see you, you have a pick in your mouth almost all the time. There it is. And this is how you wear your hoodie, like this. And that's you, man, and it's the best. It's like, so I don't think overcook it. If that's how you feel comfortable, then I love it. It's like, I see you're gonna, and then I hear you sing, and I'm like, maybe like,
you can tell when something's not extremely genuine as well, I think.
Yeah.
And with anybody, I'm not talking about just artists. You can tell if there's, you can be perceptive, and if someone's like putting on a bit of a front or whatever, which happens, you know, a lot. You've got to be able to read people really well, I guess, in any industry, but music industry as well, like being able to, listen to your gut.
Any more? Yes.
I mean, like, so as an artist manager, the goal is to get your artist to perform at like the biggest events possible. But like once you've like gotten like your artist to perform at like places like Coachella and big events like that, like what do you look for next?
I guess that's the tricky thing is like you can always do better, which is where I don't. Sometimes you can get really caught up in that because, you know, cool, we played Coachella, but we were, you know, down here on the billing or something. Like there's always that next step, which can get into a bit of a vicious sort of cycle, I guess, with just holding yourself accountable to all these different standards. But I think for the artists that I work with at the moment anyway, is the overall goal is to give them complete freedom of creativity. Whether that be more time on stage, so higher billing on a festival, but it actually to them means more freedom of what cool production they get to have, or more time to do a sound check instead of like a line check for a festival, like giving them each time more space to move and show their project and their art is kind of more the overall, I think. Than hitting these like numbers and goals. It's great to have, and it's great to have those goals, but that can get a little bit tiring sometimes in comparison of what, you know, other people are doing around you. So I think just generally having one core vision with yourself and the artists that you work with, and regardless of what's happening on the outside world, you're still, you know, kind of like blinders on, like you're still going towards that. Is the way to maybe stay sane. Who knows?
Could I even just extend on that a little bit? And I guess maybe perhaps working with artists, like you never quite know, and you maybe got to stay in touch with like what creatively that they want to do, because maybe an artist doesn't always just want to play at the biggest venues. Like maybe they want to innovate. Maybe they want to innovate, and maybe they want to do like a string of like shows where they come to a bunch of people's houses and they do like Matt Colby did those. You know, that string of shows, and that's just what he wanted to do creatively. That was the way he wanted to express his stuff. So, how do you find yourself like innovating in that space, and maybe trying to think of like new ways to put artists out there and to give them an innovative platform that is maybe different? And
go to the Bolivia Salt Flat Desert.
Yo, build that. That's what I'm asking you. Asking you, Queen.
That's a good question. I think you can always float ideas with the artists and see if they're comfortable with it after you've personally brainstormed as a manager, or with the team that you've got around you as well. Where your inspiration comes from when you listen to the music as well. I do that a lot if I'm trying to think of ideas or something for a particular project that we're working on. I'll just really deeply listen to the music as a fan again. Not that I ever stopped being a fan, but and then having FaceTime, which is unfortunately what I don't get heaps of with my artists, is having FaceTime to really bounce ideas back and forth. I think super valuable. So if you've got the ability to do that, do it as much as possible, and just keep, like, any idea is a good idea. Like, write it down, keep trying to build on it, and see if it sort of takes you somewhere. Because I think that is the beauty of the creative sort of world. There's not really too many limits. Like, you have an idea and can pull it off, and somehow get the means to do so. Like,
play a show on a hot air balloon or something, you know. That's a good
I had the idea. I wanted to play the first. I was playing in like a psych rock band, and I was like, I want to play the first show on the moon. And I was like, that would be sick.
Go big, go Mars. That's where it's going now, bro.
Unfortunately, I think Bowie. They took a turntable and played Bowie, and I mean, fair enough. Bowie is.
Have they done the underwater show yet? Like, has anyone done that yet?
There we go.
Because I've always been like, let's do it underwater.
You heard it here first.
That's a good idea.
I've got time for one more question. We were like, are we going to be able to, we're going to be able to talk for a while? We've talked for a really long while, and if there's one more question. Yes.
Yeah. For someone that's kind of like realised that's an area they want to get into in the music industry, but they don't know like where to go with that. What's like a good first step to take? And
Management wise?
How do you and how do you take that step?
Listen to bands, like start listening to bands that won't have like in their really initial stages of their career, and approach them directly. Like put yourself in sort of their shoes. Like if you were a young upcoming band and someone approached you and complimented your work and said that they'd love to help you out, because at the start it's not financial, you're doing it because it's a sort of a passion project to hopefully eventually become a thing that can pay your rent, but initially it's got to be it's sort of fun and exciting, so hit people up directly. That's what I did anyway, was just worked with bands directly for that experience, and then that generally comes from the artist. Like they've got to be already having that sort of trajectory, like I said before. So listen to the music that they've got upcoming that they haven't released yet, and then ask them what sort of plans they had before you came into the picture, and brainstorm. And then once again, reaching out to different people in the industry or using contacts that you already know as to like how you do a single release, or just baby steps, I think. And I think as well in like early stages, it's just really focusing, like not looking too far ahead as to be like, what's my overall goal? Like sure, as you develop, like I think that becomes a little bit more important the more people you're sort of looking after, but initially it's just like really focusing, I think, on each little thing that you're doing. So even if it's like, I don't know, getting that single out and helping them write a press release, like help them write that press release as if your life depends on it, kind of thing, and really getting full enjoyment and full experience from each task, I guess. Don't worry about how it's going to end up.
Just do the thing.
Yeah, do the one little thing at a time, and like really throw yourself into each little thing is what I found myself doing, and still do. Sometimes I get too caught up in like this one little thing. People are like, it doesn't matter.
I think this is a perfect place to end. Like, do the thing. Magic shows up. Luck presents itself.
Action. Action.
Yeah.
Take action.
If Nike's looking to sponsor a space, just saying. I just want to do one last little clip from the Sundrop Garden.
Yes.
Oh, Mia Trotter has just. Should we give her a question?
Because it's Mia.
Because it's Mia?
Because it's Mia.
Are you happy for one more question?
Absolutely.
Mia, this is because we love you. I don't know who you are, Mia, but
we all love you. We all love you.
How do you start working in a job such as yours? Let's do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Dive right in.
Oh, it's a big question though, without taking too much time. Yeah. Be nice to people.
Yes.
Make contacts, make connections with people that are already doing it. Ask them questions. Don't worry about sounding stupid about said questions. And really try it out with.
How many dumb emails did you send to start with?
So many dumb emails. I was even actually looking today. I was talking to one of the guys that works for me out in LA. I was talking to him today about like having to look back through old emails.
It's cringy, isn't it?
Even like within the past like couple of years, it's just I hate it. Just reading your own old cringe emails is just.
Hi.
Oh.
I'm the one.
Too many exclamation marks.
Yeah.
So too many. Hi. Thank you.
Please. Mia thanks us and appreciates
okay.
it.
Sorry,
You're
it was
more
a
than
bit of
welcome,
a-
Mia.
Nothing answer. But
I think it was a great answer.
Great.
Send dumb emails, just rock up, like, you know, just do it.
Yeah.
Be embarrassed. Be embarrassed by yourself later on. You know, figure it out now.
yeah, I'm still embarrassed by myself
No,
every day.
Can we? I want to show a clip by the Sundrop Garden. There's a little bit of a story to this, how this came into
Yeah,
being.
sort of. I guess this just goes to like the creativity, or maybe lack of. But then, thanks to the artist's creativity, where I was with them on New Year's Day. This was in San Francisco when I first met both of them. And New Year's Day, we were drinking some whiskey in wine glasses, and I was like swirling it around the glass. So it made this really cool, like liquid gold sort of effect. And then June, with the most incredible mind that she has, was just like, whoa, this would look really cool as a music video. Like, we need to integrate this into our next video for their song that they had recently coming out. And that basic idea of swirling liquid gold / whiskey around a wine glass in slow motion turned into this idea of like having these 4 beautiful dancers, like I guess carrying these sort of like orbs with this liquid gold in the middle. And this was just a very kind of sort of hungover New Year's Day that then turned into, I flew to Paris to shoot that video, and I wasn't working with FKJ at this point, but I was working with June, and we were just the only 2 that didn't speak any French because it was obviously in Paris. So yeah, and she was wearing these contacts where her eyes were all white, so she was blind. So she was like trying to walk around. Meanwhile, I was trying to help her and like say sorry in French. Yeah, but the music video is beautiful. It's like one of their top songs. So yeah.
All right. Well, let's roll the clip. I'm just gonna say thank you on behalf of all of us for coming down and spending time with us. I know you're heading back to LA. You've been here for COVID things and been with your family, but it's been such a privilege to have you in this space and share your, like, give these guys a vision of what's possible. You know, like it's like, you know. I think it's such a valuable gift, that your story, and I just thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Thank
We
you.
can just,
Fitting in your vibe and you'll be styling out too quickly. Man, it's just the way you do it when you move so swiftly. Vibing out to you and making me do you, man. Smoking out the way I feel emotion. Emotion, so good, it's so bad, it's so bad, it's so new. I'm wishing at the end of June. Closing my shroud in my vision go clearly. Can't see ahead if I'm fine when I leave me. What is the saying when you should let go? What is so impossible?